Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. Beautiful. We are so grateful to have Venerable Zishan again for the start of March.
Thank you.
We've been looking forward for your session since last December.
Thank you. Thank you. Are we going to read the article?
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll share the screen.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll start reading Sapo and then I'll just call other people. The four elements are not empty. In my childhood, I often heard people mocking monastics. Monks emptied of the four elements of wealth, sensual pleasures, alcohol, and temper. This is a serious misunderstanding of the concept of the four elements as empty. First, the four elements refer to earth, water, fire, and wind. They do not mean wealth, sensual pleasures, alcohol, and temper. Second, it is said in the Heart Sutra, form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. It must be realized what is meant by the four elements are empty is actually that the four elements are true existence. The relationship between emptiness and existence is that of essence and attribute. Emptiness is the essence and existence the attribute. They are non-dualistic. For example, a clenched hand is called a fist, and when released, a palm. When one clenches and unclenches one's hand, what is the hand called? It is a palm as well as a fist, yet it is neither a palm nor a fist. While a fist or a palm may look different, they are all attributes of the same essence, the hand. I'll call Carl. I miss his voice.
Miss you too, Sir Erwin, and everyone here, Omitofo.
Omitofo.
In this example, the hand represents emptiness, while the fist and palm represent non-existence and existence. So non-existence arises into existence when causes and conditions come together, while existence dissipates into non-existence when causes and conditions disperse. The seemingly different characteristics of existence and non-existence are unified by the nature of emptiness. Hence, just like the hand and the palm, emptiness and existence are neither the same nor different. Therefore, emptiness is the basis of existence. For example, a cup can only be filled with tea if it is empty. A house can only be lived in if it is empty. When parts of the body, such as the nose or blood vessels, are clogged, it means there are abnormalities within the cavities in the body. Taking a step further to look at interpersonal relationships and national development, if people's minds are filled with prejudice, hatred, and intolerance, instead of the spirit of emptiness that keeps their mind open, it will bring the nation's economic growth and society's development to a standstill. This, in turn, will put one's life and property at risk as well.
Okay, call someone else, Carl.
Okay, sir. I'll call someone else.
Yes.
I'll call Ma'am Sheila also because I also miss her voice.
I know I've been away for a while. In this sense, it is clear that emptiness is deeply connected with all the phenomena in one's life. As the saying goes, my home is the vast emptiness that holds myriads of phenomena. The reason Buddhism discusses emptiness and existence is to allow people to understand existence correctly so that they can let go of existing attachments and return to the original state of emptiness that holds a myriad of phenomena. However, most people do not understand the meaning of emptiness. Some even hesitate at the very idea or denounce Buddhism, as well as pessimistic religions that portray a scary world where everything, including the sky, the earth, people, and all phenomena, is empty. In light of this, I use the phrase, the four elements are true existence, to explain what it means by the four elements are empty, and also wrote a couplet. The empty nature of the four elements manifests in existence. The incorporation of the five aggregates is not real. Okay, let's see who's here tonight. Okay, I'd like to call Cliff. Can you please read next?
You mean Paul?
Paul, I'm sorry, Paul.
The empty nature of the four elements manifests in existence, means that nothing in this world will come into existence without the four elements, earth, water, fire, wind, because every phenomenon contains these four aspects of existence. The four elements are also found within each individual element. Hence, every phenomenon is inclusive and interconnected with one another in multi-layered inexhaustibility. For example, the quality of solidity, for example, bones, represents earth. The quality of moisture, for example, blood, represents water. The quality of heat, for example, body temperature, represents fire. And the quality of fluidity, for example, the breath, represents wind. The four elements come together to form the human body. When the four elements are unbalanced, that is, when any one of the earth, water, fire, or wind is lacking, the body will fall ill. Furthermore, survival cannot be sustained when the body temperature is too low or when there is no breathing. Hence, the human body, made up of the four elements, is empty in nature. I'll call on Peter next to my screen.
Additionally, a flower needs soil, earth, water, sunlight, fire, and air circulation, wind, to grow. If the four elements are absent, then the flower cannot grow. Therefore, existence can only arise when causes and conditions come together. When causes and conditions disperse, existence ceases. What does this constant flux of causes and conditions imply? Emptiness. Emptiness is not the state where existence ceases to be. Rather, existence and emptiness exist at the same time. Existence is only possible because of emptiness. Without emptiness, there is no existence. The line, the incorporation of the five aggregates is not real either, means that the five aggregates is synonymous with a sense of self. This is because the existence of a self comes from aggregation of five aspects of human experiences: form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Although the body and mind made up of the five aggregates are ever changing, do not truly exist. The intrinsic Buddha nature that underlies the incessant changes and transformation of lives remain permanent and unchanging. Short of a term to describe this nature of life, the word emptiness was thus rendered reluctant in Buddhism for its endless possibilities, endless possibility of giving rise to the whole myriad of phenomena. I'll pass it to Marlene. Marlene, can you continue, please?
Unmute first. Auntie Marlene. Unmute.
Those who don't understand emptiness think that nothing exists after death. But those who truly understand emptiness, excuse me. Okay, sorry. Those who don't understand emptiness think that nothing exists after death. But those who truly understand emptiness do not fear birth and death. Birth and death both exist in emptiness. When there's birth, there's death. Do not think that nothing exists after death, for rebirth brings another cycle of life. The essence of life is life, the universe that extends across all time, space. Life never dies. The goal of Buddha's teaching is to inspire sentient beings to investigate the intrinsic nature that they all originally possessed, emptiness, and through the incessant phenomenon of the cycle of life and death, existence. It is a pity that later generations of Buddhist disciples misunderstand and misinterpret the teaching and render true emptiness, which is lively and creates wondrous possibilities, into an attachment to emptiness that is lifeless and void. Consequently, people of sharper aptitude immediately seek to escape from the secular world upon entering the gates of Buddhism, while people of duller aptitude denounce Buddhism due to a lack of understanding about emptiness. Hence, my intention in discussing the four elements are not empty is to remedy this by explaining the Buddha's original intent of non-dualistic wisdom of emptiness and existence. Through deep contemplation of the truth of myriad existences in the universe, upholding the Buddha's teachings, loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, and the six paramitas, and cultivating for the benefit of oneself and others, the limitless possibilities, inclusivity, unchangeability, and equality of emptiness can be realized.
Thank you everyone for reading. Let me share screen. Okay, you're able to see my PPT. Okay, so tonight, I thought we will recap the content with Venerable Master Xing Yun. There will be two videos that I'm going to play first, because I think this particular chapter, since it's talking about the four great or four elements, and it touched on a lot about emptiness. I think we spend some time really understanding the content. I feel the content is pretty rich, so we'll take time to actually flesh out some of the content. And then there'll be some questions which I'll ask everybody, and we'll just recall some of the content of the article and reflect. And hopefully, you know, with the sharing part, I welcome everyone to share your thoughts. They might be a little bit deep questions, but hopefully we'll have some discussion around emptiness. So, and then lastly, there'll be just a short conclusion for from Venerable Master as well. So, okay, so I will just share the video first, play the video. Okay, so it's gonna be in Chinese, but for those that don't understand the Chinese, you can look at the what do you call it, the subtitles.
各位观众，
Are
大家
you
好，
able to hear the?
今天我各位讲四大皆空。你们各位大家对佛教基本是不了解，不过你们懂得说四大皆空。进了出家人啊，一定没想到四大皆空，这个四大皆空，这个字不是正确。 四大皆空，这是很空虚。或者这个空，我不能说是四大皆空，就是这个不空为什么？看，就是我们的口袋不空，钱放到哪里？这个房子不空，我们怎么在作业？ 这个虚空不空，这个宇宙神如万象，怎么会在里面存在？所以空是存在，空是见识力。所以讲四大皆空，四大就是地水空风地水空四大中以外，和合才为人，才为世界。 比方说，地大就是紧闷性，像我们人就是滚肉啦、冒饭啦；水呢，就是我们大小便啦、吐痰、流汗啦；风呢，就是我们风呢，就是我们的气息。假如我这个四大不调和，四大调和就是四大皆空，就存在了。 这个房子很干净，这个就是水分来调和这个水风温度太阳哎呀，走了一趟，这个房子就不能成了。这个宇宙之间任何一个动物、这我任何一个什么一个。 四大完和合则成，如果四大中分散，那就不存在了。所以四大皆空的四大，存在之事。所以我们这个认识这个佛法，四大皆空，它是自觉真理我们重视这个。 这个地也好，水也好，风也好，如果他们不想管控，他自为真，是的。你说把我这个人，骨头毛发分到一边，我的这个肌肉水分分到一边，把我这个结构分散，对了。这个房子把这个瓦片都车子都分散了。 这房子不存在了，所以因此，各位，家庭社会都是我们好好的结合它，我们就能所谓共生即强，共生存在，让我们大家同齐共生。
Okay, so I'm going to play another video. It's also about emptiness. So.
各位观众，大家平安吉祥。今天要和各位讲的， 生日真日，你说你真，他说他真，究竟什么是真？毕竟口就是一个真，毕竟口就是究竟的，还要口。空是什么意思？大家听到很规矩很开放，哎呀，四大皆空。其实这个是错误想法。四大皆空就是四大皆空是精神，要空才能有，不空就没有了。例如虚空，但虚空很大呀，而虚空里面也能拥有万有、万物、万事，都在虚空。我要很多人，我要一个大的房子，我要有空地呀、有了空地就是空即是神，就能建个大楼的。我要口袋，我让放钱啦、放点水的东西。我有皮箱，那我就放很多的东西。空有空间，才能有，不空就没有了。茶杯空，就能倒茶倒水；饭碗空，就能盛饭盛菜。空是精神，所以这个我们要赶紧空。当然，这个世界上很多人，为了一点土地，我有打官司；为了争取一个叫巷子，或者西村土地啊，有争chấp，这就是这个空有人人都需要。可是真正的谈到这空的道理，他不开心。这个就是你懂了空道理，你就懂了这个世界一切的变化，空不定性，要放心，空长期空就是长的，圆形空就是空是无相，空是虚空无相，无是无相，什么都在虚空，一个人都逃不了，应该这个空间。我们现在建造房子，有时候生成像、房屋像，这个是当初的一个题目。这个儿子啊，跟人家为了墙壁、巷子是这样的政策，甚至不讲就包括我精神的，我就想回来是基于大国。万里出手之为强，让他选择。万里长城再也不经常去生活，所以要懂得这个空，什么时候都讲到空很大，看很远。希望大家对这个空要能了解，要能用。谢谢。
Okay. Okay, so we've just watched Venerable Master's 2 videos, so I hope it kind of gives you a little bit more to the article. But let's kind of go into the article for a bit. So what do the 4 elements refer to?
So four, they are the earth, wind, water, and fire.
Yes, yes. Even though, as it says in the first sentence, like when Venerable Master was in his childhood, there are many people who mock monastics and say, oh, well, the 4 elements are what wealth, sensual pleasures, alcohol, and temper, right? But the actual fact is like it's earth, water, fire, and wind.
Wind.
So this is kind of like filling the blanks. We must realize that what is meant by the 4 elements are empty is actually that
4 elements are true existence.
yes. Okay. So let us kind of, because then the following paragraphs, it kind of talks a little bit about the relationship between emptiness and existence. Okay, so I thought we just spend a little bit of time talking about this particular part. So as it says in the paragraph, the relationship between emptiness and existence is that of essence and attribute. So as we can see, emptiness is actually essence, right? And existence is the attribute. They are non-dualistic. So it also goes on to talk about how our hand, right? So if it's clenched, it's a fist, right? If it's open up, it's a palm. And the relationship between the two is that, as you can see, the hand is the essence, right? Whereas the palm and the fist, they're both attributes. Okay. So in a way, when we have the hand, right, the non-existence we can say is the palm, and existence is the fist. So, so in a way, it goes on to talk about how that emptiness, what is the basis of existence, right? And it also talks about how that non-existence arises into existence when causes and conditions come together. So from emptiness, it's if you like to think of emptiness as causes and conditions. So if the causes and conditions are right, it comes to existence. When causes and conditions are no longer there, then it ceases to exist. So which is the non-existence, right? So going back to the hand, the paragraph goes on to talk about how emptiness is the basis of existence, right? So if we think about the hand is the essence, as we talked about just then, right? So from the essence, it can then build on something to exist, which is your palm or fist, right? So from emptiness, since emptiness is what do you call it, causes and conditions, so it actually is what it goes on to talk about. If you look at, where is it? Paragraph. Oh, on page 76, for those that have the article. So where it says, in this sense, it is clear that emptiness is deeply connected with all the phenomena in one's life. As the saying goes, my home is the vast emptiness that holds myriads of phenomena, right? So from emptiness, there's the possibility for anything, really. So, for example, if we look at, it goes on to talk about, for example, a house, right? A house needs to be empty for it to hold things, right? So of course, this particular picture here, when it no longer, when the causes and conditions change, then it starts to become non-existent, as in it starts to decay or it starts to diminish. Okay, so that's just something that why it goes on to talk about in page 76, where it says the four elements are true existence. To explain this, what is mean by the four elements are empty, and that's when Venerable Master, he also wrote about a couplet where it says that the empty nature of four elements manifests in existence. The incorporation of the five aggregates is not real either. Okay, so a little bit about the article, just going back to the article. So what is the reason why Buddhism discusses emptiness and existence? If you can find it.
Suppose it is to allow people to understand existence correctly so that they can let go of existing attachments and return to the original state of emptiness that holds a myriad of phenomena.
Yes, correct.
I just highlighted that part.
Thank you. Okay, so since we read the couplet, okay, so what is, well, so it says that what is the couplet that wrote to explain? Okay, so I just read that one, so we can just skip this part. So if we go on to the next one, so what does the empty nature of the four elements mean?
What was the question again, Sepo?
So what does the empty nature of the four elements mean? So
That
you
they
know,
have-
the couplet, the very first line, yes.
That they have to come together.
Mhm.
So if they don't come together, you see it as empty. But when they come together, then you see existence.
Yes. So,
So
in-
nothing in this world will come into existence without the four elements.
Mhm. Yes. So, okay, so in terms of our human body, right, it's made up of the four elements. So explain how our human body is made up of the four elements.
We have to be able to breathe. We have to have our blood flow. We have to have our carcass in our skin, our skeleton, and that's the earth. And we need to have body heat, or regulating the cold and hotness of our body, the temperature, which is the fire. All these elements have to be present for us to be alive. When one of these goes out of whack, then we get sick. And if we start losing one or a couple of these, then we start dying, or we end up really dead or non-existent anymore.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, thank you. That was well explained. You kind of use your own words too. So yes, so our body is made up of these four elements, right? As our bones, the blood, the temperature, the breath. These are the examples of the four elements. Okay, so now we're going slightly deeper into the content, which in this particular couplet where it says the incorporation of the five aggregates is not real either. Can you try to explain what this means? Well, first of all, what are the 5 aggregates?
Form, volition, feelings, consciousness, perception,
Mental formation, yes.
mental formation.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so why is it that, you know, these 5 aggregates is not real?
From the article, it talks about that the 5 aggregates form your concept of self or your ego. So, which is actually empty, which is not real, is an illusion. So that's why I say they form together. The 5 aggregates form your concept of self, which is an illusion. That's how I understand it.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this. Yes, surely it's illusion, but we can see Paul. You know, you're right here. How can you be an illusion to us?
Shafu, is it because it says here it's not real because we keep changing? So each moment we lose what we came together. Like every moment we move from one moment to moment. Therefore, there's no fixed reality of that self.
Mhm. Well said, well said. Yes, correct. In the article, it does say that because we are constantly changing, right? Just as I say, okay, who are you now? That now, this second, it had just passed.
Yes.
By the moment I said now, that now has passed, right? So even though having said that, but it's very, what do you call it? This, even though, you know, it's a bit like the Diamond Sutra. It says that we can't grab onto the past, we can't grab onto the present, and we can't grab onto the future, right? But okay, in life, it is, we will always say, okay, live in the moment, right? Having said that, but knowing that each moment you can't grab it, but you still need to live that moment, right? So as is it Yubi? Or
Ube, chef, yes.
okay. So as you have said, that we can't grab onto that moment of where, if we say we are made up of these 5 aggregates, if you take form, for example, of course you can see how I look and I can see how you look. That's the physical body. But before a moment ago, are you the same person as such? If you think about, yes, well, our cells, our blood is moving, our circulation, our temperatures, even though it's like 30 something degrees, but you know, there's fluctuations depending, right? So there's no moment of the same, even though it seems like the same. But if you go down to the very minute of your cell, you are not exactly the same moment to moment. Okay. And if we think about the feeling, right? A feeling that you just had, well, before this session, right? Or right now, or maybe after the session. So there's no fix, even though it can last for a little bit of period of time, but it's not always the same, right? If we talk about our perception, now that you've read this article, maybe your perception somewhat has changed about life, right? So the mental formations, even though we can't really see what goes on in there, but right, it's doing stuff. It's so, and our consciousness is constantly storing things, storing our thoughts or our experiences, you know, people we meet, and all that. Our consciousness is constantly in some ways changing all the time. So the illusion part the illusion part, as I was challenging Paul just then. The illusion part is that we take this as I,
Mm.
or I take what my brain tells me this particular thing. If I'm looking at this webcam, I say, yeah, this webcam is real. The illusion part is where I think this thing is real. I think my feelings are real. How often do we actually act upon our feelings? I'm feeling very angry right now. If you're feeling angry, you just want to get that out. All right. Or you're feeling sad, or you're feeling happy, right? When you're happy, you maybe you forget a lot of things. You forget because you're enjoying yourself, right? So we know that these are, as you say, illusions, but in some ways we still act as if they are real. We are driven by it, right? So the illusion part is when my brain somehow tells me, yeah, what's happening is real. What I see is true. What I hear is true. It's often we are driven by all of these, the feelings or the form, where we see something, and then my perception will tell me, okay, I'm seeing this thing, and I think, and then my consciousness will tell me, yes, that's what it is. It draws from the memory and it tells me, yeah, what you see is this. But sometimes it happens so quickly before you even catch it. Before you know it, you're already reacting as such, right? So it reminds us that it is not real, but we need to be able to see that, well, kind of become a little bit, a bit aware of when we become kind of driven by it, and we are kind of following this so-called illusion of it, right? So, but sometimes it's not easy to catch, okay, because it's so quick. It's very quick. Before you know it, your brain has already gone there. But as soon as you become aware of it, pull yourself out and say, wait, I think I need to rethink this, right? Okay. So why do you think, or why, well, maybe before you read this article, and I believe in book 1, I'm not sure if you joined that session where you also talked about emptiness, right? So, but as Venerable Yulin told me, it's 2 years ago that you had this discussion about emptiness. So I don't expect you to remember what you discussed 2 years ago. So, but why do you think people misunderstand or misinterpret emptiness? Or maybe you yourself have this misunderstanding before you read about emptiness.
Yeah, hi, Sue. Maybe I can share personal one. So prior to joining to lessons, I'm just reading on my own. So I heard about emptiness a lot. So what I thought about that is emptiness. Being a Buddhist means renouncing everything, feeling nothing, renouncing the world, which is actually not. It's only half true. You renounce, but you don't feel nothing. You still feel the feelings, but then you now understand that these are not permanent. Then what you need to do is to do the noble eightfold path, which is the right view, have all this right intention, right speech, in order to change your karma. In order for you to reach enlightenment. So you realize it's empty doesn't mean you don't feel anything. You should not feel nothing, but instead you should feel the compassion in order to change your karma and reach enlightenment.
Mhm,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to share?
Can I
Hello, Carol? Yes.
share? Because I don't know why about the causes and conditions that after so long, uh, And then I joined again. We're talking about emptiness. And then it was mentioned that 2 years ago, that was also the time that we were talking about emptiness and Diamond Sutra. And I remembered Ma'am Luisa, you are also here right now, and Sir Erwin, Shifu Yulin, and Ma'am Sheila, and Peter, you were also, I remember distinctly we were talking about the Diamond Sutra, and we had a good time about how, let's just say, confusing it was for me, basically. I can remember reading the Diamond Sutra by Master Xingyon, and the introduction was, a mountain is not a mountain, therefore I don't know, I don't want to I can no longer exactly remember, but I can distinctly remember that Sir Erwin and Ma'am Luisa are experts on emptiness. So I just would like to be reminded again what the mountain actually means. And but with regard to Master Xingyon, this is just an amateur interpretation about emptiness, because I think he is talking about two emptiness here, like the first one is like the mountain thing, right? Like it's not really a mountain, like the intrinsic nature of something. It's not really something like that, right? Like for example, money. Money is a piece of paper, but we put meaning into money. But actually, cash or money is inherently empty. So, and if you want to go deeper, ultimate emptiness, so money is maybe earth, so something like that. And then I think another aspect of emptiness, of what Master Xingyon is saying about the space. So if you have lots of space, then there's so much emptiness, then there are so much things that you can also put. So that's, but I don't know, Ma'am Luisa, can you enlighten me again? Because I think emptiness is very important and still having a hard time.
My mind is empty. Well, maybe we can invite Master to speak about emptiness. And we have other, Marlene is also here. We can invite them to explain further. They are experts.
I just
also.
want to go to the mountain and look at the view, not really think about whether the mountain is actually a mountain.
Shifu, is it close enough to think that the word emptiness, as Chi Shi was saying, because the word itself is empty, because we put our own notions into words. So we put meaning into words when there should be none. Like we should not have any attachments. So emptiness speaks of us having practicing non-attachment. That's how I perceive it. But some people would think that when you talk about emptiness, you talk about zero or losing something, therefore empty. But actually, we are just being reminded that like the four elements are not empty, but they have to come together for the attribute of existence to present itself.
Yes. So when you said, okay, so how, well, just a further on from your comment is that how can emptiness help you become less attached?
I will become less attached when I realize that, like that, moment to moment, we change. So we live the moment. If we are having joyful moments, we live the joyful moment, but we don't get attached to it, so that when it is gone, we do not suffer. When we are also in the moment of sadness, we live the moment of sadness because we learn many things in that moment of sadness, but we also do not get attached to that sadness because it will lead to our suffering. It is the attachment. So we have to let go of that so we do not suffer.
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts, but I'll get to it. So as we were talking about, maybe just respond to Kyle, your comment about mountain is a mountain. I think the first study group I did with you guys is awakening, where none of us were awakened. And then we were all discussing about awakening. And I felt my limitation in sharing about awakening as I'm not right there yet. So, and it was about that seeing the mountain, and then the next stage is seeing the mountain is not a mountain. And then the third stage is the mountain is still a mountain. So I guess we're talking about a difference in a state of mind. It's like if you think about, okay, you had a perception about emptiness. As Ube says, you know, some people get stuck on the word because you feel like you're talking about empty, like nihilism. You know,
Yes.
it's void. It's like there's nothing there, the nothingness. However, in Buddhism, the emptiness is not like void. It's actually talking, I think some of you have already touched on, where it's talking about
Possibility.
space. You were talking about, I think, Carl, you were talking about, Venerable Master talks about how is the basis for existence when he talks about the house, right? When you think about it, why he uses the analogy of a house, if it's not empty, how can you live in it? Or how can you put stuff in it, right? I must admit, when I first heard this analogy, I got very confused. I was still very confused 2 days ago. I had to ask another venerable. I said, you know, I'm very confused about this because every time I hear about emptiness, I know that emptiness is not this nothingness or this void. However, every time Venerable Master says, yeah, but if you don't have the space, how can you put stuff in it? Like he was talking about, if your pocket is not empty, how can you put coins in it or right? But it's the very thing you tell me not to think that way, right? So that's where I got very confused because I kind of got stuck on this physical thing of, right? But suddenly as I was preparing this and watching the 2 videos that, you know, I shared at the beginning, it kind of was like a light bulb moment that I think what he was talking about is the condition, the causes and conditions for this thing to exist, right? So if I want to put furniture in my house, which I need space. Space is the condition that has to be right for me to put the furniture in there, right? So if my pocket is full, I can't put any more things, like the cup. If it's full, I can't put anything in it, right? So if we need to create the right condition for something to exist. If the condition is not right, that thing cannot exist, right? So when he talks about the house being empty, is talking about we need to set the right conditions for something to exist. And that's when it talks about how emptiness is also the basis for existence, right? So it's not kind of this void that we're talking about, but it's the possibility from emptiness. But the causes and conditions is very important, right? So you can think about from this aspect. So I hope you're not, you know, it sounded a bit painful when you were talking about this mountain is not mountain. Like you said, you just want to enjoy the view, right? So you can still enjoy the view, right? So if we talk about a piece of paper, right? What do you see in a piece of paper? Right? If I ask you, Carl, what do you see in a piece of paper?
What kind of yellow paper, bond paper?
Legal document. The attorney.
A contract?
I don't know. Paper machine. If what I see chipo is the paper. If it's white, I just see the color. Oh yeah, color. So the color white. But I guess it's about perception now. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. So if you put on the emptiness cap, right, you will look beyond the physical aspect of the paper. Do you see the tree? Do you see trees and then you see seed? You see somebody going to plant it. You see the soil, you see the sun, you see the, you know, there's a lot involved. Okay, so the tree is the whole huge bunch of people who grow this tree for it. But somebody needs to manufacture the paper and it goes through a whole heap of processes. And then for you to have that piece of paper in front of you. So we're talking about all of these, right, coming together for this to exist right before you. So when, okay, if we take that to the mountain that you see, wow, it's amazing. The view you see is amazing. But if you look beyond what you see, you will see a lot more causes and conditions for that image to appear before you. It is not so easy, you know, it takes a long time to grow a tree, right, into forest, right? The humid, not the humidity or like the climate, and all of these needs to be right? So I guess this is what emptiness is trying to get us to see, that we see deeper and deeper into our existence, that we're not just taking it as face value, right? But the challenge comes when it's almost like the hand analogy, where you see the essence and the attribute, right? The hand is the essence, right? Which emptiness is the essence. The possibility, many possibilities, right? So, but the conditions need to be right. Okay, so I guess we can.
So
Okay.
someone commented here.
Oh, okay.
The paper
sure.
is me and it's my decision what to do with it.
Sure.
Ube
you
also
might
said
need to-
something that I can write my thoughts on or paint on. It depends on the person valuing the paper.
So we're giving the paper, of course, we make use of the paper. We can use it however we wish to use it, right? As Ube says, you know, depending on how you value the paper. The paper is me, and it's my decision what to do with it. Anthony, would you like to elaborate on this note? The paper is me. Is he here? Anthony, are you here?
I think you're muted. Need to unmute.
Hi, naririnig niyo ako?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. For me, it's ano kasi, that's why I called the paper is made. Depends on my understanding kasi kung how I see, how I value the paper. And for me, it comes to realization that kung ano yung whatever I shall do with the paper, it depends on to me. And the karma shall relies upon onto my actions. And maybe it's That's all. I can't explain it right now because I was just joking about that. I'm just giving my idea.
You didn't think I was going to ask you, right?
Yeah.
Can I share also, Sifu?
Sure.
Something. Yeah, because when you ask the question, very simple question like what do you see in the paper, then I thought of my own answer, but then someone talk about the past, the tree. You talk about the seed. Then Carl mentioned that he just sees a tree. He just a paper. He's asking yellow paper about. Then Ube mentioned she sees a painting or what she wants to write on it. So I can see like some can think about the past, some think of the present, then some are thinking about the future. And so thinking like no answer is wrong. Everyone's right. Because I don't know. I just
Yes.
realized that okay, there are so many views, then I should be aware that not many people, not everyone thinks like me. So I should be aware that many people think differently. Then I should keep an open mind. Well, that's I just wanted to share that realization.
So, any more? Okay, so Peter also says we should not abide in form, to abide in emptiness. Do we just see a piece of paper or do we see the tree? Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing all your thoughts. So the next one, I guess some of you have already kind of talked about examples of it, where in this particular article, where it says existence is only possible because of emptiness. Without emptiness, there can be no existence, which is a little bit like what we've been talking about. Can you think of examples for this particular quote? How can we see existence is possible because of emptiness?
Master, if my pocket is not empty, I cannot put money inside.
Sure. That's a good example. Well, while you're thinking, let me share about, so as you can, maybe I'll start with this one. As you can see for those that have been to Huangshan, this is our main shrine, right? In traditional shrines, okay, there's very little space for people to stand. Okay? It's usually huge statues will take up most of the space in the shrine. So, but as you can see, Venerable Master's architecture design is often allows a lot of space for people to stand. So imagine if the shrine does not have the space for people to stand in, these participants or like that the youth or devotees, you won't be able to come and be part of this space, right? So likewise, in a lot of the what do you call it? A lot of the in the design of for a temple, right? There's always like a guest room or function rooms, or as you can see from the picture, like sutra transcribing hall. This one is in the Buddha Museum, where they use outdoor to tell stories. So if we're talking about the right conditions for something to happen, without a space, right? If we just have a piece of land and we don't build anything on it, which, as you may know, that for Huangshan used to be a bamboo forest. If Venerable Master never kind of built the actual monastery, and put in all these facilities, then we cannot do our practice. Like if there's no sutra hall for us to transcribe our sutras, or a space for us to sit and drink tea or have a meeting, or so these are examples of where we're talking about the existence is relying on that right condition, right? So this is just if anyone also has more to share from this question of how is existence is only possible because of emptiness.
Shifu, actually, it's not really addressing the question, but earlier you were sharing about the paper and a lot of things are needed to create the paper. So when you were sharing, and I'm really grateful because I think I somehow recollected what I read from Master Shinyon. It was exactly like that. And it also made me grateful. And I think Master Shinyon also shared that if you contemplate on emptiness and all the things that are needed to create something, you now have the space to be grateful. So when you were sharing earlier, I'm really grateful because kind of made me feel that time in the past when I read that beautiful thing when what Master Shinyon wrote, or what I read before. So thank you.
You're welcome. So I think thank you for sharing, because it also reminds me that because of emptiness, we know that for something to come to exist, it requires a lot of causes and conditions. It's not so easy. So when just also a note on emptiness, when we say it's got to be empty of something, right? It's actually talking about empty of a separate self. So there's no one thing can exist by one thing, right? So you can see even paper, there's a lot of conditions. For even anything we see, webcam, for everything pretty much, it cannot exist without the four elements, right? Our body cannot exist. Nothing can just exist with one, what do you call it, one aspect or one. So I think when we talk about emptiness, we need to keep in mind that empty of a separate self, right? So there are people who think, yeah, I can live by myself. I don't need anybody. But no, you can't, because even your food, anything, your clothing requires people, right? So you're never really alone. We are interconnected. Given that, yeah, like you said, you start to appreciate, right? You appreciate something come before you, and you know it's not so easy. It has gone through so many processes for this thing to appear in front of me, right? So a note on Ube's sharing about attachment, right? So if I think about this body is made up of 5 aggregates, right? It cannot exist without one of them. All 5 need to exist for this so-called Venerable Zishen to sit here, right? Imagine I don't have mental formation. Can I even converse with you tonight? Right? Right. My consciousness is not here, then what's gonna happen, right? So they all need to exist. But knowing that, right? Knowing that I am made up of causes and conditions, so I shouldn't attach to any one thing. If I'm attached to the way I look, I'm only attaching to form, right? But I'm made up of the 5 aggregates. So it's kind of, when we attach, it's you're kind of limiting yourself a little bit because you only see one point. You're not seeing the whole big picture. Okay. So I still have a few more questions. So let me just go on. So it's kind of following on. So how can understanding emptiness help us in life? Well, maybe those that have not shared. Peter, would you like to share something?
I thought I already shared. For those that participated in Venerable Huizi's class on Heart Sutra, what I got out of it a lot is that when you have affliction arise, so something that's not going your way, so if you're angry, things are not smooth, he said that's when you get to know emptiness. And the reason why you get to know emptiness when things don't go your way is because everything is always flux, in a constant flux. It's not fixed. So to answer this question, if things are is always changing, then if you understand that, you can, and you also understand what we discussed today about the space and the house, then you realize that one, it's still gonna change, and two, if you can use conditions, change the conditions, that can lead to a different outcome that better suits your life. So an example I can give is today someone was saying that their father is in a lot of chronic pain, and he doesn't have any interest or anything. So he has no purpose in life, and he's just feel like he wants to die or end his life. And what I suggested is that if the son can give his father maybe a meditation mat to learn how to meditate. If the son can give the father online classes to learn a different language. If the son can get the father to join maybe the church, the choir, like to sing and join the choir or something, then that changes the conditions, right, for the father, and that can lead to better outcomes. So in summary, emptiness, everything's always changing, so there's hope, and we have to focus on conditions to make sure that it's can lead to a better outcome.
Okay, thank you. What about Sheila?
Yeah, good evening. I was just thinking about emptiness, and I always relate back to, because usually you can only find me in one of three places. It's either the house, the office, or the temple. So those are the three places that usually spend most of my time at. And recently we had a typhoon over here last December. And then you get to realize that how everything is so connected with one another. Because during that time, I was in the United States, and I couldn't even connect with people here in Cebu because there was no internet, there was no power. So you realize how important all those utilities and all those electric companies and how everybody connects. But when one thing is missing, it causes like a void. Like we couldn't even operate our business because there was no power. And a lot of businesses couldn't accept credit card because there was no internet, no electricity to get the swiper going. And when I wasn't here though. Luckily, I was in the United States when it happened, but I was just at the temple attending a meeting yesterday, and they were telling me just like how bad the situation was here, and like lining up for 8 hours for a tank of gasoline. And it just makes you realize that everything is just dependent on everything. If one thing goes awry, it's just causes chaos. And you just feel grateful for all these things that people do for you on a day-to-day basis. So I think as you look at your life, and you just have more appreciation for good things and good times. And then when the things happen, you also have appreciation for how outside people come in and help. How so many conditions, how so many people came together to get the city back running. Like even though other places weren't affected, they would send their engineers from other places to come put up the power. I think one of the main priorities was to get the power going. So if the power was the condition, the basic condition to get every other thing going, because from power, they could operate the internet, and then from power, they can get the water refill stations going and provide water again to the city. I mean, it's just amazing how all the conditions connect with one another. So I'm so glad that when I got back, everything was kind of running smoothly and almost at par. Everybody was saying it's about 80 or 90% normal by the time I returned back to Cebu. So that's all I want to share.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the causes and conditions, they do change. When they do change, I think it's challenging. Just like COVID has kind of challenged us in many ways. But slowly, I guess, everywhere we're kind of living with it now. Yeah. So I'm aware of time. So I think we still got 10 minutes. Any other one would like to share?
So I'll just share something.
Sure.
So in relation to life, so it was also mentioned in the article, right? So the one you asked, which I actually highlighted. Because many people becomes attached to something or someone, and if we understand emptiness, it may be easier for us to let go, and to maybe not become attached to things, because we know that things are in constant change. For example, in my case, related to my daughters, they have grown, and very soon some will go to college, some will go to work, so I wouldn't be able to skate with them anymore.
Yes, Mike.
So
Yes, we are.
I know that that time will come soon, but I'm not worried, I'm not afraid, because I know everything is empty, right? But because of that, at this point in time, when I still can, I do try to make an effort and go out with them, enjoy life with them, so that when the time comes that they need to move on, then it will be easier for me to let go and not hold them back. To allow them to fly and, be whatever they can be and help others. Yeah, so the understanding of emptiness allows me to think like this and give them better chance.
Yes, I guess, yeah, thank you for bringing that point up. I think, yes, it's very important that when the conditions are right, when we have these things, when they already comes to existence, it's right for me, then enjoy it and while it's there.
Yes.
knowing that it will not last forever. No such thing, but at least for now, I'm going to give it my full.
Yes.
So I think this is more proactively living with our lives. It's not to say to turn everything away, and that's the other extreme, right? It's when you have this thing, then enjoy it. But the moment when you lose it, right? Often when we lose it, that's when we don't want to lose it. But yeah, but if we live fully with it, it's easier because you know that you made the most out of it. Right? So
Yeah, but on the other hand, suppose if, for example, I don't understand emptiness, then I would want to grasp to being with them all the time, right? So when it's time for them to go, I would make it difficult for them, or I will become sad, which will make them sad also. So that's the beauty of being able to understand emptiness.
mhm,
And like you said, let go when it's time to let go.
mhm. Yes. Okay, so I like to just close by sharing this little conclusion that I found in one of the readings from Venerable Master, where he says, emptiness is like love. Where is love? In our eyes, in our muscles, in our brains, in our hearts. Well, if you dissect all of these organs one by one, can we find love? But no one can deny the existence of love. Parents love their children, husbands love their wives, etc. So everyone has love and love for others and being loved, right? So although we don't see love, right? We cannot see it, we can't touch it, yet it's everywhere, encompassing all. Emptiness is the same like love, where it's everywhere. So I think with this simile, if you like, right? I think it explains it quite well that though we cannot see it, it's like emptiness. So it's everywhere. And there are myriads of possibilities, right? So, well, thank you for everyone who have shared tonight. I hope I didn't confuse you more than you were before. So I look forward to next time when we meet again. Please stay well, stay safe, and live with emptiness and enjoy emptiness. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Sapo. Before we end, Venerable Yolin or Venerable Chigi, do you have anything to add or anything?
When it comes to emptiness, it seems like my mouth have to empty because I'm afraid that the more I share, the more confused you are. But these few years, I really listened to a few venerables sharing about the emptiness, and I also try to understand it and through my daily life. I was glad that my family members, they would join the class Heart Sutra of Venerable Huizhi. And you know, my sisters, she almost have conflicts with her husband, and when she realized of the emptiness, and then she just analyzed the problem with the emptiness that she understood, and then she asked me, is it this way, is it correct? And then I found that she already changed her mind. In like before, maybe she were attached with it and she might have argument with my brother-in-law, but this time she chose to understand emptiness, and she leave the situation. So that I say you are great because you already got improvement through the understanding from the Heart Sutra. So I believe this emptiness really can help us in our daily life. And for myself also, I try to understand this emptiness maybe through the consistent condition that we see. the things that we see from the surface might not true, but we try to understand the things behind it, and it will let our mind and our heart maybe bigger. And we're not just squished in one side, not just attached in one thing, but then we will see the picture, the whole picture bigger. Yeah. So also best wishes to everyone. Good night. And before we end, just have dedication of merits. Thank you again very much, Susan.
Yes, we'll have the dedication of
Thank you.
merit. Let's share my screen. Palms join, everyone. Thank you very much. Turn on your video so we'll have photo opportunity.
Emptiness.
Shipo, if I get angry, Shipo, I'll just think about the mountain.
What happened to your mountain?
Okay, let's have lotus flower. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Venerable Susan.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Nice
Master.
to
Thank you,
see
everyone.
you, everyone. Been a
Oh,
long
thank
time.
you. Nice to see you again.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.